to officially start. Thanks to everybody for showing up, and thanks to all our beautiful speakers here. We really appreciate it. So before we begin, I just would like to do an introduction to our company, who we are, and what we do. So I'm gonna block my screen for a bit and open up a PowerPoint. Screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Got it. All right. So we're Ideas, and what we do as a company is we're trying to bridge the gap between academia and the industry. We focus a lot on AI, blockchain, big data, and everything data science. So what we do is we host a lot of conferences, we host a lot of webinars, and our main goal is to just attract every data enthusiast out there. And without you guys, none of this is possible. So if you're ever interested about our company, feel free to visit our website. It's ideassn.org. And what we do is we host conference, we have certificates, we have workshops, and we also do our own consulting program. We're a fairly new company. We started in 2016, and we're growing pretty rapidly thanks to LinkedIn, thanks to all the promotions we're getting. And again, we're constantly looking for partnerships. We're constantly actively looking for speakers. So we're associated with a lot of different companies, as you can see here. But our main companies that we work for or we're partnered with is with Data Application Lab, IBM, LinkedIn, USC, NVIDIA, and UTD. And if you're ever interested, we have certifications on our website, one for SQL, R, Python, recommendation systems, and NLP. Other than that, there's an email over here if you want to email about us anything. And just visit the website on the bottom, ideassn.org. Other than that, I'll stop sharing my screen. And Kristen, can you introduce yourself?
Hi guys, I'm Kristen Kehrer. I've been practicing data science for the last 8 years. My educational background is formally a bachelor's degree in mathematics and a master's degree in statistics. And I'm currently a senior data scientist for Constant Contact, and I'm really excited to be here with you tonight.
Thanks. And Megan, you?
Hi, everyone. I am, let's see. Oh, how do I get my screen again?
You're there.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Silvey. I am fairly new to the data science realm. I gained interest a little bit over a year ago. Currently a data science intern for Westar Energy, which is a local utility company where I'm located. And I've just, ever since I've gotten interested in data science, I've been learning on my own, gaining experience through my BS in mathematics program, and just networking in the awesome community on LinkedIn. So yeah, I'm super excited to be here.
Sweet. And Karen?
Yeah, hi, my name's Karen Masterson, and well, let's see, I started off my undergraduate in civil engineering, and I have a Ph.D. from UCLA in quantitative linguistics.
Nice.
And I recently, well, in 2017, completed a data science boot camp intensive. Randy knows a little about that with Springboard. And I'm currently working as a data analyst for Verizon Digital Media Services, which is a content delivery network, and doing data business intelligence and data science.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. So we're going to begin. And the way this is structured is this is all based off of you guys. So the audience, we have a Q&A session, a Q&A box on the bottom. So ask as many questions as you want, and I'll be choosing accordingly, and I'll let the speakers answer it. So take this time to jot down your questions or post it in the chat, and I'll start reading. And if there's any problem with the audio or if there's any problem with the video, please leave a message. All right, so we got our first one. All right, so one question is, and I'll give this to, let's say, Kristen for now, since you're first. But one question is, for data science, what programming languages should we know?
So in terms of programming language, for me personally, I tried moving into Python about 6 months ago, and I found myself back in R as a person who is, so used to building statistical models. I've just found that I have more opportunities in R. Certain things are just migrating over to R. Like if you tried to use AutoArima a couple months ago, it didn't exist there, and I actually just used the TBATs recently that isn't in Python yet, I believe. So for me personally, I like R, but I know that a lot of people do prefer Python, and I think that whatever way you decide to go is fine for your own purposes, but definitely, like, I feel like we don't talk enough about the fact that SQL, although it's not like considered a real programming language because it's just relational databases, it's really the workhorse. Like, figure that out before you move on to something else.
Yeah. Does Karen or Megan, would you like to add anything to that?
So yeah, sure. I mostly work in Python, but I feel like R is great more for visualization. I probably should get better with R, but also I want to second Kristen's observation about SQL. It's really the basis of how you're going to get the data or check it, or you have to be able to query the database with SQL and get the results that you need and the joins that you need for real data sets to do analytics on.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my experience so far has mainly been with SQL and Python. I've done a little bit with R, but the thing that I've noticed that's nice of using Python is most of my team is filled with engineers at the moment, and most of them do not understand the R language very well. So it's very nice when I program in Python because they are better able to understand kind of what I'm doing and kind of, if I do have an issue, they're more able to understand that. So that's the main reason why I enjoy using Python, just because more people are able to understand that one. And then the SQL, again, is important because that's, the starting basis of most of what you're going to be doing.
Yeah. Okay, we're having a lot of questions now. So I'm going to just leave this open-ended for you. So Kristen, Megan, Karen, if any questions are of interest, feel free to just speak out. So the next question is more in regards to statistics. Clarissa is asking, how much of statistics and probability should we know?
I think Kristen probably should answer that one.
I'm so biased, though. I mean, for me, the project that I worked on most recently was identifying seasonal customers in the database. That's time series, that's blatantly statistics. I feel like although, it's hard because there's it's such a broad field and there's a lot of people doing a lot of different things. But where I've been in marketing analytics and I've worked with claims data in healthcare before, and I've worked in the utility industry, statistics has always been very useful, like logistic regression, classification algorithms, and you may hear about them someplace else, but to me, when I hear that, that's statistics, and understanding why you're using a certain criteria to determine the best model, and understanding probability in a way that, at a level that's going to help you to any model you create that you're going to put in production, you're going to want to test it, and you're going to want to understand like how these populations are being pulled and what potential confounders or problems you may run into, and how to determine if there's statistical significance of your results, that you're actually providing a lift over the previous experience. So to me it's huge, but I could completely see somebody who comes from a computer science background who maybe has a completely different outlook. Like, I'm not saying, that the way that I view it is the one way to view it, but to me, I'm really glad that I have a master's degree in statistics.
I would just say, I feel like as a linguist that statistics is sort of the parent of data science. And I mean, there are other parents, but statistics without a good foundation as far as understanding the algorithms and being able to evaluate your results, I think you really need a background in statistics as well as linear algebra and calculus. But definitely statistics.
Yeah. Have anything to say about that?
I agree with both of them on it. As far as me personally, I feel like if you don't understand the statistics, then you aren't truly going to understand your machine learning models as far as like everything that's going behind them. So I think it's important that you know at least a good foundation of statistics and probability. That way you can utilize that knowledge when it comes to building your machine learning algorithms. And, even when it comes to just like basic analysis and data visualization, it's nice to have that understanding. So yeah, just basically agree with both of them that it's important to know some.
Can you guys hear me fine? I'm a little...
Can you guys understand that?
No, Randy, your audio is having a little difficulty.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. How about now?
Yep,
Better.
you're good now.
All right, thank you. So our next question from Hanu. How is your typical day like as a data scientist or analyst?
I don't want to go first this time. Switch it up.
Anybody?
You want to take a stab at it first?
Go ahead, Megan. Go ahead.
Okay, I can do it. So a typical day for me and kind of the realm of data science is, it really kind of changes per day, but a couple of things that will kind of go on is I'm constantly trying to better my knowledge in programming and statistics. So, taking time out of my day to learn, working with databases, making sure that everything's in order, with new data coming in and making sure that all the current data is where it needs to be. And then also just starting to build some, machine learning algorithms and make some data visualizations out of my results. And then there's a lot of collaboration between myself and the other data scientists and engineers. So there's definitely a lot of moving parts going on as far as, all the different aspects of data science that, really come into play, since I know data science is a mishmash of so many different things. So it definitely keeps the day very interesting.
Right now my day is mostly, I work on a cross-functional team in enterprise data management. And what I've been working on mostly is dashboards based on Looker, and doing the SQL queries to validate the dashboard results, and modifying the ETLs to bring in the data into the dashboards, and just doing the UI to make them look great, and then validating the results and sending them out to do KPI reporting. So that's a lot of what I've been doing on a daily basis.
Okay, so if I was to think about what I did on Friday, I came into the office around 9. I fill my iced tea. I listen when I first get to my computer. I listen to see if it's still purring because I kicked off a program the night before that was gonna run an individual model for each customer, and so it takes forever, and I was expecting it to still be running, and it was, so that was great. And I check and I see how many, I see what site owner ID we're on, because each time it runs through a person it prints out, and then so I go over to the database and I say, okay, I still have like 50,000 people I need to get through. I'm like, that's cool, let that keep running. And then I am currently trying to get data together to do a data-driven segmentation in K-means. And so that's involved a lot of trying to get buy-in from other areas of the business. So, whether that's marketing or operations, we want to make sure that the project that we're working on actually has, people who want it. We want to make sure that we're working with the business, and then, we want to get their ideas as well. I meet with the team, and we talk about all these different variables and what we have available, whether it's in the big data environment or it's in SQL, but maybe it's, in tables that I haven't played with before. And so we're just keeping this Google sheet of all these different variables, and I'm going around and getting input. And, at the same time, I might meet with, the VP of one of the areas to present on my last project that I haven't, I'm like on tour at the moment, because you finish a project and you got to go present it to one area of the organization, and then you go present it to another area of the organization, and you show everyone your results. And so it was, a combination of showing off the last work I did and creating a teaser for the new work that I'm going to do, because not everyone understands that, the segmentation that we're doing isn't something where we're going to decide what we want to segment on ahead of time. We're going to use K-means. It's an unsupervised algorithm. And so really it's like, hey guys, we want your input so that we can get all the data, like everything that we can think of that exists in the database. And we're going to try and learn more about our customers than we currently know, and like get that buy-in. And that's like literally what my day was on Friday.
Okay. All right. It's a great story. Okay, I've been seeing a lot of these questions recently, so I think it would help out a lot. I've seen this at least 5 times, and the question is more regards to the data science interview. So the question is, can you give me some advice or some tips or like any hints on how the interviews are like for data science?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of interviews, and what typically they'll ask is for to explain what you're currently working on, and ask questions about projects, and then go in deep detail about projects that you mentioned, and what algorithms you used, and how did you interpret the results. And and also have seen a lot of questions on statistics, explain how, what is a REMA, what is LSTM, explain, how gradient boosting works, just detailed questions about various aspects that you should be prepared on. There's a lot to know.
I know for me, in my experience with interviews so far, that on top of kind of like all those questions, one of the things that interviews are really looking for is kind of your passion and drive for the field. So if you're just there trying to, memorize all these technical questions and spit them out, that's not necessarily 100% what they're looking for, because they really want to see, your drive for the field and your passion about it, and that you're in it, for the wrong reason. So they really want to see that, side of you, and that little bit personal side of, like, hey, I really love this, this is why. So that's, I think, something else to keep in mind.
Absolutely.
That's good.
So I had written an article on this, my experience interviewing this last round, and it's up on my blog at kristenkehrer.com. But I think that like the 3 big behavioral questions that you want to be prepared for are, you know, explain a time where you explained a technical, I don't know why I'm having trouble finding words. You described a technical concept to a non-technical audience, because a lot of what I do is I build models and then I need to share that with other stakeholders. So that was a question that I saw all over the place. Tell me about a time that you dealt with a difficult stakeholder. And I can't think of the third one off the top of my head, but it's absolutely on the blog post. Other things that I've seen in interviewing is they ask you to whiteboard SQL. You know, they'll give you some examples of some tables that you'd expect to see in a database. And they'd say, you know, give me all the names from this table, and you have to just write it out. You know, join this table to that table, and they'll make it so that you have to share a select statement, and then, you know, it gets a little bit more difficult, and then it gets a little bit more difficult. And it doesn't get crazy, but they just want to see that you have a basic understanding of SQL. And then they'll ask me to whiteboard some code. And so you can whiteboard. Some people are okay with pseudocode. No one's told me that it needs to be a specific language. And I was asked FizzBuzz to solve FizzBuzz twice. And those were 2 days in a row. And if you're unfamiliar with FizzBuzz, it's, I don't know, you're printing out like numbers 1 to 100. And so they want it to go 1, 2, fizz. And so multiples of 3 are going to say fizz. Multiples of 5 are going to say buzz. And multiples of 3 times 5 are going to say FizzBuzz. And so you need to write the program to give you that answer. And so typically the coding questions are pretty simple. Just, you know, some loops, some logic statements, like nothing. And it doesn't mean that there aren't companies that will, you know, ask something more difficult, but that's all I've experienced is like pretty straightforward. Like, you say you can program, do you at least have like some basics? And some other stuff. Honestly, I could probably talk for 20 minutes, but I won't. I'll stop right there.
I agree with all of you guys, and I would like to add one of my essays. I think my biggest advice for any job search, especially with data science, is I totally agree with Megan on how you have to show your passion.
Oh no, the audio.
Yeah, your audio is, again, Randy.
And the job you're applying for. And also, I think the most important part is at the end. Oh, is it? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, we can hear you now. Sorry, we're missing important information.
Okay. Is it fine? Yeah, my audio is really bad.
Oh.
Can you hear me fine? If not, I'll just stop.
I think we can hear you now.
Okay, I was just going to say, normally at the end of the interview, at the end of the interview, they're going to ask you, do you have any questions for us? And I think this is your golden opportunity to actually showcase the amount of work and effort you put into researching the company by like asking questions about maybe you research a recent project they've worked at, or maybe you research a recent problem they're going through. And allows them to understand, wow, this person actually knows something about my company, and it's going to stick in their head a lot longer. Am I still lagging? I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
We got.
Hello?
I think we got most of that. Yeah.
This is bad. Okay. If that's case, I might have to switch over and let one of my other teammates take over for a bit. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Nope.
Yeah, his face isn't moving.
Oh, Randy, we need you.
No, Randy.
Come back.
I
Randy
just saw
is-
somebody ask what my blog is. It's www.kristenkehrer.com. My last name is Kehrer.
And I want to say it's a really good resource, especially if you're job hunting in data science. It's got some great information.
Oh, thank you.
I like your cover letter template.
Oh, thanks.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, I apologize. Okay, now all the questions are deleted. So do you guys still have the Q&A panel open?
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
All right. If you could take in charge for a bit and ask questions and answer it, that would be really great.
So Kedar asked a while ago, how important is it to know SAS?
I don't. Do you?
I think it just depends on which company you're at, because some companies are huge about using SAS, but I personally don't know how to use it yet just because I have not needed it. But I have seen that some companies do prefer using that tool. So I think it just really depends where you're wanting to work and kind of what tools they use. Kind of like how some companies use MATLAB more than others. So it just, everybody has a preference.
Yeah, so I actually have experience in SAS, and I used it in my first job out of grad school. I personally would not take another job using SAS. I interviewed at a company. They said they were a SAS shop, and I was like, oh, open source, I think, is the way of the future, unless you're going into the healthcare industry, like the pharmaceuticals, like that, all of those, the bio, they use SAS. I think otherwise it's really R and Python, and I wouldn't want to put myself in a position where I take a job utilizing SAS and don't build my Python and R in the meantime, and 3 years later maybe I go and look for another job and I'm going to be behind, because I just don't, unless you plan on making a career in like the healthcare industry, I'd focus on R and Python and not worry about SAS. And that's just me.
It seems like SAS is kind of old school, maybe more legacy. But yeah, there definitely are shops that you have to have SAS experience and expertise to get an interview. But I like what Kristen said.
Okay, one of the questions that I saw is, what is the difference between data science and data analytics? So I don't know if one of you two want to start or I can start. So up to you guys.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Megan.
Okay, so I guess for me, kind of the main difference with data science and data analytics is I feel like data analytics is almost kind of slightly below data science. So data analytics is kind of when you're building those dashboards and you're kind of analyzing the data after the fact a lot of the times. Versus data science is when you're starting to be building those machine learning algorithms. So you tend to do more programming in data science. And that's when you kind of get into the machine learning realm, and that's when you're starting to implement models that are actually out there, let's say like, the Netflix algorithm or Amazon's algorithm for their website. So that's kind of more, it's, running in real time versus data analytics. A lot of times it's, you're analyzing your data that you got, you're building your dashboard, evaluating your KPIs, and then that's what you're presenting to your stakeholders versus here's my machine learning algorithm that I built after I analyzed the data, and this is going to go into production. So that's take on it, but I'm sure other people have different opinions on it.
So yeah, I agree, Megan, and I'd say that data analytics is sort of more less prestigious than data science, and it's more of a descriptive analytics, and data science is predictive. So if you're in an analytic position, like I am, I look for ways to bring in predictive analytics, and have done some proof of concept on customer retention and customer segmentation to bring in sort of see. And I think the whole department realizes that once we have the data warehouse in a shape where we can bring these data sources together, that the way of the future is to do predictive analytics. You have to be able to have the data in place to do that. So there's kind of well, we're going to get to that, but we have to, do the data engineering to bring the data sources into a shape where we can do any kind of analytics or predictive analytics on them. So that's what I've seen from my perspective. But also, I'd say if you're in, in analytics, it's a good entry level into. It's easier to get a data analytics position than a data science if you don't have experience. So it can be a good jumping off point. If you just want to get into data science, it's really hard to get a position if you don't have 5 to 7 years of data science experience. I don't know if you guys have experienced that, but so a data analyst position or a business intelligence position can be a stepping point off point into data science.
Absolutely, I agree. I was always told that because my last role, actually, I was a manager of analytics. And so, advanced analytics is its whole own career trajectory. There are people out there that are VP of analytics that may also, have some team of data scientists as well. And you absolutely, if you can identify opportunities, use machine learning algorithms with the data sets that you get in analytics, you can use those and you can share your results by interpreting the model, and people are very open to leveraging those techniques to solve a problem. But the difference is that when you're in data science, the models that you're building are something that, like Megan said, is going to be real time. It's going to go into production. So, you can still use machine learning, but the data science is where you're building models for production.
Do we still not have Randy, or?
I mean, his face is stuck, so I'll read the next question.
Here's a quick one. What visualization apps do you use? I know personally I use Tableau and Power BI. It just kind of depends on what project I am doing at the moment. I think both of them.
I'm lagging a lot right now.
Yeah.
What?
He's lagging, I think is what he was trying to say. But yeah. So I guess Karen and Kristen, what visualization applications do you guys use?
So like I said, I'm a big fan of R, ggplot too. We also happen to have Tableau at, we have a Tableau license where I work, so I make use of that too. It's really easy for pulling in data from multiple sources. If I want to download census data and pull that in as a CSV and append that to people's zip codes from data that I have in SQL. It just makes it really easy to do that with some points and clicks and start looking at things. But yeah, most of my visualization is in R.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me fine?
Oh, there you are. You're here twice. You're better.
I know. You heard
Can you hear me?
I like the bottom one better.
I don't see a second Randy.
No?
I see
I only see one Randy. Oh, there's second Randy.
Yeah, he's a better guy. The other one's frozen.
All right, I apologize for this. I'm sorry.
Not your fault.
Oh, sorry to interrupt, but if you can answer about that last question, I do have a question I really want to answer that I read on the panel.
Which one? Did anyone get which one he was talking about? Should we just pick another question?
Maybe. Or Randy, if you can hear us, could you maybe type it in the chat so we know which question it is?
I'm seeing a lot of SQL questions, and I'm just going to answer them real quick. People are asking if SQL and MySQL are the same thing. Is SQL important? So we already said SQL is important, and so there's all these different flavors of SQL, and don't be scared if something says like Postgres or MySQL or some other variation of SQL. There's a standard, so they're all the same enough that if you know one type of SQL, you will pick up the other type of SQL. Don't even fret over that. If you know SQL, you know SQL, you're good.
Right, but it does help to try when you're doing queries to, like when you have two different flavors, like we do either Impala or Hive, that you check to make sure that one works with the other one because they do return different results. So. But you're right.
Hive's that's you're only in big data with that, right? Like that's
right. That's on Hadoop. So yeah.
Yeah.
But it is
Hive
a
and
SQL
Hadoop
dialect.
It is a little different.
It is a SQL dialect. It just returns different results than the Apache Impala that we use too. So something that works on one doesn't necessarily work on the other. So, but they are basically different dialects of the same language. So
yeah, I'm not saying they're exactly the same, but you'd pick it up so quickly, a couple Googles and you'd be good to go.
Yeah, why doesn't this work? Oh, here's the different syntax that you need to know. But don't wait to pick the right SQL. Just get into a class or something.
Just download SQLite and start playing.
Yeah, because SQL's fun. It's so easy to get results, and then it's so complex too. Like you can get really complex queries that take some brain power.
You can lose a day. You can lose a day.
Why don't these queries return the same results?
What's up, Randy?
Oh, can you hear me fine now?
Yes.
Okay. There was one question I read here, and if all of you guys can answer it, it's more in regard to the failures. So the question was, throughout your data science journey and careers, what was the biggest type of
Kristen, do you want to take that?
What? I didn't hear the question.
I didn't hear it. I'm just kidding. I couldn't hear it.
I was like, did everyone hear something I didn't hear?
No, I'm sorry. That was. Randy, who asked that question?
It was a question I read a while back before I logged on and off about 10 times ago.
Was it the one about like what was your biggest like learning experience?
I think so. And then he or she used the word like failure or setback.
Yeah, that one.
So I thought that was pretty interesting to answer. Yeah.
Was the question about a failure?
Yeah. So the question was, throughout your data science journey and career, what type of failure or setback hindered you, and like what did you learn so much from it, or what did you learn from it?
I'll take a stab at that. I'm not thinking of like big giant setbacks, but I think that every day you have setbacks, that you have challenges where something that that you're working on doesn't work, and you just keep, but the way that you succeed is by taking each failure and keeping on, being persistent, because eventually you're going to get it. And that's what I love about data science and programming and everything, is there's always a way, there's always a solution. And even if it takes overnight and you wake up in the middle of the night and you go, aha, that's it.
Yes!
And then you wake up and maybe I've done this before, wake up and I got to try it, in the middle of the night. But are you're excited about getting to work in the morning because you figured it out, and then you try it and it works. And it's such a great feeling. So I feel like data science and data analytics is just constant setbacks and success. Like you overcome one setback and then you rejoice in that success, and then you move on. Yeah. I don't know if that's exactly what the person was asking, but
I mean, I feel like that's my life is, someone mentions a project or something that they'd like to solve, and a lot of times the first way that I think of approaching it, I realize probably isn't the best way to approach it. And then like Karen said, it'll be like midnight and I'm like, holy shit, I'm gonna try this in the morning, and I'm like Google chatting my boss, and but I don't even see that as failures at this point, because right now that's just the job. Like there's a lot of thinking that goes into the best way to try and solve the business need. I think that my failures are like a lot of the problems that just the biggest learning experiences for me have been just around office politics and learning how to be a part of a cross-functional team, and that collaboration. Like, it's taken me to get into this point in my career, to sort of really understand how to really collaborate and how to best get buy-in for a project, and how to help move things forward, and keep the right level of setting expectations ahead of time, and putting things in writing, that sort of stuff. There's been stuff there.
I guess one of my setbacks recently has been, I think it was back in January, is when I started trying to work on a project. But due to this crazy semester, I have yet to actually finish doing that project. So that's kind of been a big setback, is sometimes figuring out where to find time in my schedule to work on these things, because they do take a good time to go from start to finish for a personal project. So I know that's probably set me back a little bit as far as in my current job search, where I don't maybe have as much to talk about as if I had completed that project already. So that's kind of one of my setbacks. And as far as learning from that, it's just kind of learning how to do better time management and to try and maybe lighten up my schedule a little bit, since I tend to try and do everything under the sun. So it's one of those things where I think it's a good life lesson in general, like, okay, maybe I can't do everything at once. So it's, just kind of learning, okay, there's, you need time to, do the basics like eat and sleep, and you need to try and make time for these projects on top of your studies and working. So I think that's just been one of my learning experiences, is like, okay, how do I make time for these projects? Because I feel like most of the time these data science projects, they do take hours of work to, collecting the data, to cleaning it and building the algorithm, doing the analysis, visualization. So it's definitely a lot, but it's a good experience. So yeah, that's kind of my story with that.
Megan, that's a great point. I mean, if it's not directly related to the question of failure, but in some ways it is, because I feel like to be successful, you have to just keep working on your own projects outside of work and developing your portfolio to be able to show your results, but not just for job, promotions, but just in general to keep yourself passionate about what, work on something that's interesting to you outside of work is, and to keep the skills that maybe you're not using at work fresh. It's just so important I'm excited about the project that I'm working on now with sentiment analysis. So yeah, like that.
Nice, fun.
Yeah.
And stock market prediction. It's so awesome. It's such a great use of sentiment analysis to predict stock market ups or downs. It's kind of the way to do it. Anyway.
Predict when to invest.
Yeah, well, I haven't gotten that far, but it's natural language processing, which I love. So
that's awesome.
Okay. Sorry. Can you hear me fine?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, good. We're gonna wrap up a little bit. So 2 more questions. I can ask the last question, and I'm not sure if you've answered this question before yet. For someone who has no computer science background, is data science a good option, or is data analytics preferred?
I would, I'll take that, because I think we need more information about the background. I think in general, like I said, data analytics is a good entry point into data science to get your feet wet, but it would be good to know what this person's actual background is, because without any, you just got to get started. Even if you don't have the background, just get started. Just jump into a class, jump into a SQL class, jump into a boot camp or something where you're going to get your hands on. Don't wait to have the right, credentials. That would be my advice.
I know my personal opinion on this is, I think if you're willing to work hard and to put the time and effort in, you can do it. There's some people out there where maybe if you start trying to learn how to programming and you absolutely hate it, then data science is probably not for you, and you would probably want to go more the data analytics route. But I think, like I said, if you're willing to put, the effort in and the, work really hard, I think you can build up those programming skills, because that's what I've kind of been doing the past year, because I'm doing a bachelor's in science and mathematics, and there's very little programming in that area most of the time, especially in Python. So it's been definitely an interesting experience, but it's definitely a lot of working hard on your own time, whether it's, doing a data camp or online courses on like Coursera, or, classes at a university, whatever method you kind of prefer to use. I think if you're willing to, work hard to do that, and this, I think, goes the same if you, let's say, don't know how to do the mathematics. If you're willing to learn it, then I think it will work out. So that's kind of my 2 cents on that.
Yeah. If you have the interest and the motivation, go for it. And if you find out you hate it, well, then do something else. But if you just develop a passion for it,
Exactly.
then go for it. Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Kristen, yeah, Kristen,
Yeah,
have
I
any
mean,
say?
absolutely. I agree with what everybody said. You can take like a data analytics job and start learning Python or R at night. You can learn, I mean, just the year that we're living in, where like we have all these resources and it's on demand. Like I can take a course at my own pace in the evening, and it's not just to land a job in data science. Like I do that now myself, like while working. I'm always signing up for something in Coursera. Maybe I finish it, maybe I don't, but I think that part of the job is like wanting to be a lifelong learner. Like there's, especially with how fast everything is moving, the data's getting bigger, the libraries that we're using are getting actually easier to work with, but you want to be aware of what's coming out. And start learning it, and and go for it.
Can I read a question here from
Yeah.
Jennifer, just real quick? She says, where should one start if they are an analyst but don't have a lot of chance to use data science in your day-to-day life at your current analytics job, but know it could make a difference? So what I would encourage Jennifer, to look for ways where, put that in a proposal or an actual POC of how your data science could make a difference, and start working on it. Ask your boss if you could do it on your own time, or just put it, start gathering some data to do some data model, do some data science algorithms, and show how it can make a difference. And you'd be surprised how interested people are in it, as long as it doesn't cut into their, what they have to do for their day-to-day work. If it's going to help, then they'll, if it's going to save the business money, if it's going to make money, then they're going to want to hear about it. So make yourself the data science person in the office.
All right. There's the one last question before we wrap up. I think this is a pretty interesting one, written by Sweta. He or she said, can you please mention the course that's good to take for learning practical knowledge in the data science domain? Or is it through Kaggle datasets? When I take a dataset, I get confused on what methods to use. Do you have any suggestions? You understand the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any of an idea of what the background is of this person?
Not that I know of, but I think the question is more in regards to, I have a data set, but I'm lost on what to do next.
Yeah, so Kaggle datasets, my understanding is that they're often rather large, and if you go into R, there are data sets in there that you can download, like the MT cars, it's literally like the letter M, T, cars, as in cars. And start slicing and dicing by different variables and make some simple plots and start to look for relationships. And if you want to probably look for missing data. And you can do this by taking a Coursera course in R. I really like Swirl. I just found out about it. It's a library you can download in R that sort of like walks you through the syntax. But, you know, a lot of Googling, like a lot of this job is Googling. It's like, how do I look at a correlation matrix plot in R? And then, you know, it'll say like type core, X and Y values, you know, like it's like a lot of Googling. You have to understand like how you want to slice this data, what it is that you need to look at. And then you got to find out how to figure out how to look for missing variables, you know, write the syntax for that, not missing variables, missing data, you know, look at different plots, whether it's scatter plots, bar plots, you know, and if you're very in the beginning and you don't have, you know, if like going into R and trying to figure these things out just seems like way out there for you, like go into Excel, do some pivot tables, start to see if you can understand the story and what's going on and if there's a relationship by different variables. And of course, I'm talking about, you know, some data set that I don't know what we're, you know, the question is like, I just have a data set, like, what do I do? But if you see a relationship between certain variables, like there may be an interesting variable in there that you think is worth, hey, I'd like to predict, you know, how this changes with respect to these other variables. And it's going to change from data set to data set, but I'll let somebody else speak.
So that's great advice. Kaggle data sets may or may not be the best place to start, but I know a lot of people start with, I think it's called the Iris data set, just to get their, and there are a lot of, if you Google it, there are a lot of blog posts that just take you through step by step what an end-to-end data science project looks like, from loading the data set and visualizing it and doing some preliminary data analysis on it, and then, you know, the models to use, how to load them. So that would be my advice, is to look at some, you know, a blog post that takes you through a simple data set end to end, and then use that as a model for your next data set and what to do with it. Or, you know, take a course, a Coursera course. I've heard Andrew Ng's course is great, but that's another way to do it.
Anna, I agree with both of you ladies. And I know another great resource is GitHub. So maybe if you just want to kind of browse through some other data scientist GitHubs and just see kind of how they go about their programming, if you're getting stuck on that part, and just kind of, you know, like how they go about, you know, formatting everything and what, you know, I guess packages that they're using with it. So I think that's definitely a great way to go about it, because, you know, some of these people have been doing this for years and years, and, you know, their coding is great. So it's definitely a great way to use that to model your coding after that. So I think that's another great resource to use.
And I would also like to add something too. Back to the Kaggle thing, I really love that platform, not only because they provide you free data sets, but again, these people or these experts, they're posting their notebooks online.
Oh,
and
yeah.
So what I tell people is that these are actual people, either they're machine learning engineers, or they're actual data analysts. Look at their kernels, look at the top rated ones, and go through line by line, like how they think, how they write their code. Because that allows you to see like their thought process behind that code. And that's what differentiates you between someone who knows the tools and someone who knows how to use it and why they're using it. So that's my big way for that.
Good advice.
Yeah. We're running out of time. So if Kristen, Megan, Karen, if you have any last words to say to our audience.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight, and I'm really glad that I was, you know, able to be here with you, and I hope I was able to answer some questions.
Yeah, I really enjoyed being here. Thank you, Randy, for inviting me, and Megan and Kristen for your valuable insight, and I hope it was useful. My parting advice would be, if you love data and data science, just jump in and have at it and do it for the love of it, and then the job will will follow. I guess. I mean, not quite that easily, but
There's a few intermediate steps.
I love the sentiment, though. Yeah, let the passion drive you.
But you can do it. You can do it.
You can do it.
If you love it, you can do it. Yeah.
I know. Well, thank you for having me here. Thank you, Randy, for putting this on. Thank you all over 100 participants for attending. This wouldn't be possible without you. My biggest piece of advice just being in this data science realm is just constantly be learning every single day. That's the biggest thing you can do to, continue to better yourself over time and just, continue to grow, is just always be learning, because that's one of the things that I absolutely love about this field is, the possibilities are endless when you just keep learning, because there's so much knowledge out there. So, yeah.
And my big takeaway is, don't be afraid to ask questions. So you have to ask as many questions as you can, especially on either LinkedIn or at your school, because that's the only way you're going to learn. You have to ask questions to yourself. You have to ask questions on what do you want to learn out of it, what do you want to get out of it. And it's only by questions is where you can get answers. So networking on LinkedIn, you'll be surprised how many people are here to help you out. Kristen, Megan, Karen, just send us a message or post a message and tag us. We'll be more than happy to help you out.
Yeah, Randy.
And
always feel free to tag.
Yeah. Right.
Anytime, we're here. And also too, we just have a poll. So for all the audience, if you can take your time, 1 minute, to answer these questions, we really appreciate it. And again, thanks, Kristen, Megan, Karen. Really appreciate your time. We're spending the weekend with us. So thank you so much. And I really apologize for my connection.
It made it more
I was
interesting.
on and off a lot.
One of those challenges.